Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Thursday morning trading room. Just a moment, we'll get the screen share going on, and we're off and running here on the NASDAQ. The market actually making a very nice recovery of yesterday's early decline. So yesterday out of the open we had a substantial sell-off. The market recovers, trading back to the open by lunchtime, waffling a little bit, but through the overnight and the afternoon session, we actually recovered the earlier gap down, and now we have a little bit of a gap to the downside from where we left off yesterday. We finished trading around the 62.70 mark, and here we are opening near 6,300. So we'll see whether they try to get into that gap this morning or whether it's just going to continue to push the market higher. Personally, I am a cautious bear, but I have been since summer. The market just seems very overbought to me, but it's not a good idea to try to trade with some sort of directional bias. You have to trade what's in front of you. So try to clear your mind and be objective, and you'll probably do okay. My worst days, coincidentally, are ones where I do come into the market with a bias, and I think, oh, it just has to go up today, or it has to go down today. And usually that ends up costing me. So we got the big rally out of the gate. For those of you who like those early signals, well, here the hawk gave us a first micro-macro cross to start. The Raptor also giving us a nice little hard edge bounce. You can see we got several continuation signals through the overnight session. Now we're into one of our resistance zones. The market's reacting a little bit there. Here on the Eagle, on the opening buzzer, we got the first in sync signal, and I almost think that's to its profit objective already. Look at that. We're only 4 minutes into the session. Crazy. Well, it wasn't that long ago I was moaning about not having enough volatility in the market. That does not seem to be a problem right now. Uh-oh, Mark having a little software problem with his NinjaTrader this morning. I hate it when that happens. Computers are great when they work. there's few things as frustrating as a computer that isn't working the way it's supposed to. Oh, Dan says his is acting up as well. Well, that's odd. Scott says, are the issues the same? We won't get into that. Shut down your Ninja, reboot it. That usually solves most of the problems. Oh, I see. Frank says there was a new update. I hate those. You've all heard my rants about updates and how I don't. And how I am most annoyed with Windows 10 on my shiny new laptop, and how it forces me to update. Scott says I wear aluminum hats on bad PC days. Yeah, good old tinfoil hat. Nothing wrong with that. Dan says his freezes on startup. Well, you know, Dan, NinjaTrader support is very good. They're very quick to respond. They may ask for your trace file. But if a reboot doesn't resolve it, then you may need to talk to them about it. Oh, Dan says it freezes on startup of Windows. Okay, that's beyond my scope of expertise. All right, the NASDAQ buyers still on a tear. We're really looking at a strong rally here to start the day. Okay, we've got a little bit of a, you could interpret this as a 4-arrow consolidation. It's not the way I normally like to see a 4-arrow consolidation. Usually the best 4-arrow consolidations are going to have a bear flag or bull flag shape to them, where the market pulls back a little bit and we start producing buy signals or sell signals in the case of a downtrend. This one has a slight upward slope to it, which is not, I'm going to say, not as reliable. It does still tend to work out because of our scalp target is very modest. But I usually like to see it either pull back or, at the very least, kind of move sideways. So I'm not going to hop on board that one just yet. Does seem some of that early momentum has drained out of the market. Maybe I spoke too soon. We're getting a little bit more volume here. You can see some of these bars here on the Eagles getting a little bit wider. We are also producing the official trend change signal here on the Falcon. There's the signal right there. It looks like we may get a little bit of follow through from that. Okay, well, that seemed to have been a little short-lived, a little breakout. Okay, here come the sellers. We do have officially this is a double dot formation. Let's see if there's anything here in the history we can tie this into. Oh, it doesn't look like it. Nothing recent anyways. I don't want to go back too far. The double dot reversal is the counter trend signal for the Falcon. It is an early trade. It's usually most reliable if you can tie it into a nearby reactionary move. Essentially what you're doing with the double dot reversal is you're saying, hey, look at what happened the last time the market hit this high. So here we are, we're producing double dots. Sometimes there will be 3 dots in a row even. And we're producing a sell signal. So that could be a counter trend signal if I had some reactionary zone to tie it into, which I do not. But sometimes you do. Sometimes it's worth keeping a lookout for. Oh, good. Mark says, I'm breaking out the aluminum hat. I think I'm back up and running. Rebooted a couple of times. Ooh, but in the end had to restore to Monday's backup on NinjaTrader. That's extreme. All right, well, that double dot entry to the short side may now actually be developing into a late filter entry signal. So most of the tools still looking pretty bullish here. We've got a macro pullback, and this is really starting to look a little bit more like a traditional 4-arrow consolidation. We're only about 15 minutes into the session. A lot of times this quarter to the hour mark is when the market throws me a knuckleball. So in this case, it looks like it wants to go up, but maybe it's actually going to come down. Here's a little style tip for your tinfoil hat. Frank says the hat works better when you have antennas and maybe a propeller on it as well. That's actually, it's too bad Halloween has come and gone because I would definitely wear an aluminum foil hat. well, we may get a test of the extreme here in the Raptor. If we do, if we get a retest of the high end, a failure, and we come back with a sell signal, that will be a viable counter trend signal, a number 2 signal after a number 3 signal. Tends to be a little bit more reliable. So we'll keep a lookout for that. We'll let the see if we get a little retest here. I'm not looking for much, just a sign that the buyers can't hold it together. You can see we're hugging this support zone right on the number 6305, a couple of bounces, and if they can't hold it that time, I'm thinking a short and maybe a run back here to the at least the primary resistance and maybe even the median line would be in order. Come on. Also watching the euro dollar and the gold market, both of which not doing a whole lot right now. Pretty content just to drift sideways. And the hawk now here, I'm starting to get too many signals. You know, a 4-arrow consolidation is one thing, but we really don't have a 6 or 7-arrow consolidation pattern. So when you see a lot of arrows printing and no follow through, that should make you suspicious. All right, here we're getting now the red bar buy signal, which tends to develop near the end of the trend. Now that's the red bar buy on the hawk, not to be confused with the red bar buy on the eagle, which is actually a stronger signal. All right, here we've got our counter trend signal now, and there we go. The only nice thing about a counter trend move is you always know where to cover the position. You always cover above that swing high. And are they going to give me a second chance to rearrange my trade? Yes, they are. So we'll do it like this, give myself just a little bit more room. There we go. Feel a little better about that one. Now it doesn't look like much of a test of the extreme here, so the programming is actually reading this failure here as the test of the extreme. It's reading this as the extreme. Now most times when you see a test of the extreme, it's going to look like this. It's going to come up short. That's usually what it looks like. Every once in a while, the market will breach the extreme, but not significantly so, and then fail. That's what we're seeing this time. It's less common, but it can still have some good results. Now it looks like we're getting a proper test of the extreme. for the most part, everything's in a little bit of a jumbled mess here. Oh, here come the bulls again. This is why a second push entry is advisable, especially in situations like counter trend trades. With the second push entry, we allow the market to engage the signal, and then we see where it flinches. And you can use a second push entry on pretty much any of the signals. Every once in a while, the signal will run away on you. That's the downside. The upside is that most times you'll find yourself on the right side of the trading equation. Take this number 3 signal, for instance. It worked out, yes, but you did have to take a little bit of heat, which again, we don't tend to put our stops all that close. But had you waited for the reaction, you can see you would have placed your order above here. Likewise with the next signal, the reaction came right here, and it wasn't until the market actually got some momentum behind it that it brought you into the trade. So it's a little something to consider here. The number 3 signal looks like the reaction, if you waited for a bear bar to actually print, came right here, and you can see you had to give up about, well, a good half of your profit objective, which made this trade a little bit more sweaty palm kind of trade. But like I say, there's always a trade-off in trading. If you want the higher probabilities, well, you're going to have to give something up to get it. If you're prepared to accept the lower probability, well, you can probably get by with less risk. So there's the trade-off on that. The Geiger counter is starting to swing here a little bit to the short side, which would confirm what we saw earlier. And breakdown here below the 6305 area is probably going to see a little bit more aggressive selling, I think. We've probably got comparable signals here on the other tools. Yes, we do. So here on the Hawk, we have a red bar buy signal that you could short. So you can short below there. The failure of the red bar buy is a counter trend signal on the Hawk scalper. The Eagle's still bullish. The Falcon hasn't really committed yet either. So right now it's the Raptor and the Hawk leading the charge. Come on. Well, the buyer's still holding on. All right. Okay, Scott asked, Eric, can you clarify at the end of the day at 1 p.m. the market shuts down for a small amount of time and then reopens? So setting a long trend trade for overnight, do it at 1:30 or so Pacific. Yes, short answer. The market does, it closes for 15 minutes after the day session closes. The pit, what we used to refer to as the pit session, even though there's very few trading pits anymore. So the market closes at 4:15 Eastern, 1:15 Pacific, and then reopens at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific. There's a couple of markets that have a little pause in their trading. Cotton market is another one that the market opens and then it waits for 15 minutes to start trading again. I guess it's so everybody can get their ducks in a row and stomp all over the little guy. But yeah, honestly, I don't know why they do that. I think it's just to differentiate the Globex session from the day session. They probably need a few minutes to settle all the intraday contracts, make sure that everybody's flush for the day, and then the overnight trading resumes. You can talk to your broker. Sometimes if you place a good till canceled order, it will remain active in the overnight even during that pause. So if you're looking at holding through the overnight, this is obviously more important for your stop losses. Okay, I think I can safely scrub this order. It's more important to have your stop losses active if you're holding a position through the overnight. But yeah, check with your broker. A lot of times the good till canceled will still be active in the overnight session. Sorry, I can't multitask. Frank asks, which markets are most active from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern? Well, gold tends to be a pretty good 24-hour market, regardless of where you live in the world. You can probably follow gold. 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern, that's 3 to 8 my time. You're going to start getting into the Asian session, especially at around 8 in the evening Eastern. That's when the Asian markets open. So you're going to want to follow markets native to that time zone. The Japanese yen If you can get the Nikkei index, sometimes that's pretty good. The euro dollar actually is another one that trades really well day and night if you're looking at a currency. And crude oil, surprisingly, has been doing quite well through the overnight session. But usually what you're trying to do is you're trying to follow a market during its native time period. So here in North America, during the day, we would be following North American markets. When it's daytime in London, well, you'd be following the British pound, you'd be following the euro, you'd be following Brent crude, you'd be following gold, maybe cocoa. So again, markets that are native to that time period. But gold, check out gold. Gold is usually a very good 24-hour market. Here is gold on the Raptor. And so, what did you ask? You asked 6 p.m. to 11. So 6 p.m., that's 3 p.m. Pacific. So that's going to put you in this time zone here. And you can see it was a fairly decent session. It doesn't look like the market unwound all that quickly. So you can still, you know, you could probably watch a television show and still trade this. It doesn't require a whole lot of thought on your part. Let's go back another day here. We'll take a look. Yeah, when people are asking me, what market can I trade after hours? Go for gold. It's one of the world's most popular markets, and even though the gold market, for the most part, is dead flat sideways, you can see there's still some decent trades to be had. Especially if you're just looking to pick up a couple of dollars. Oh, by the way, before we leave this, notice what happens around when the Asian session opens, which would be around 5 p.m. Pacific. It isn't long after the Asian Open that we start to see a trend, right? We saw it that day. Here's another. So you got the Asian Open, flops around for about an hour, as the markets do in North America, and then it picks a trend, and away it goes. So a little something to look for if you're going to follow the gold market around the Asian session. Let it do its thing for about 45 minutes or an hour, and then see which way it seems to be leaning, and then you can get on board. Well, speaking of leaning, we're certainly leaning toward the bullish side today. A solid move up. Actually got another quick little trend change signal here in the Falcon. Got another first micro macro cross. here in the hawk. I'll put your question out there, Scott, but this is actually a great question to bring up at the Facebook forum, the DTS Facebook forum, because it's going to be a lot easier to share input than having me read everything out. But it sounds like you're doing pretty good. Scott's asking a question for what others use. I use Phillips for broker, and I own NinjaTrader. My round trip for one contract is $4.04, which is pretty darn good. Does anyone else have something much better? I don't know if you're going to do much better than $4 round turn, but I don't know. We'll see. That's I think that's a pretty decent commission. Of course, in the States, you guys have so many more options than we do here in Canada, especially here in British Columbia, where our investment laws are archaic. But that's another story. I won't get into that right now. Ooh, Paul's paying $360 at Dorman. Yeah, Mark uses NinjaTrader and he's paying $372 round turn. Frank, I'm almost certain Phillips is an American brokerage. I haven't heard of it. But you've all heard the expression, you don't want to be tripping over dollars picking up pennies. If your broker is giving you good service, an extra 25 cents a contract is probably not going to put you behind the 8 ball. Well, I think we can safely say the market is in a little bit of an uptrend today. I'm getting everybody's input here about brokerages now. Like I said, the Facebook forum is probably a good venue for this because you guys can discuss all the particulars. Paul says Dorman manages the money for NinjaTrader. Well, that was interesting. A little run up there, and now kind of put the brakes on again. kind of sitting on my hands until I get a pullback or something I can take advantage of. We have moved 2 full zones on our support and resistance lines. I'm thinking maybe a little bit of a reaction is not out of the question. So maybe I'll get that retracement to the hard edge or the hard edge bounce. All right, well, we got the slow grind. What time is it? 7:15. Okay, everybody's posting their fees here. Yeah, Jeff says my all-in round trip with Dorman is running 448. Maybe I need to give them a call. It never hurts to talk to your broker, folks. It never hurts to ask for a better deal. To say, what can you do? I was talking to a friend of mine and he's paying 360, or Mark says 364 he's paying. They want your business. There's no question about that. So, problem is with Ninja, it's not quite as competitive as it was before they took over Mirror's Futures. But there are always options. Yeah, but as Scott says, I'm calling. That's a great idea. There's no harm in calling. I have a friend who I think she does this just to pass the time. But every once in a while, she'll phone the credit card companies or the cable companies and just see what kind of offering they have. You know, if you've been a customer for a while, most times they will do something for you. Well, the buyer is not letting go, not yet anyway, but don't really have a signal that I can take advantage of just yet. I think we'll see a little bit of a run up here still. Although the euro dollar is starting to tail off. Scott says Trump is talking this afternoon about taxes. And yes, you're right, we might see a huge movement. Although I think everyone's anticipating something favorable as far as the stock market is concerned. Thing to remember about news, it's not the news itself that's important, rather it's the market's perception of the news. What I mean by that is, given the current state of the market, it seems like the market is anticipating something very favorable in President Trump's announcement. If it is on the surface favorable, but not as favorable as the market was anticipating, prices will fall. If it is more favorable than the market is anticipating, which is usually rare, the market will advance even further. It's all about perception. That's why following reports can be so difficult, because you have to have a very good feel for what the market is already anticipating. Personally, I have a hard time with that, so I let the charts do the talking for me. This is why it's never uncommon to see a market fall on good news and rally on bad news. It goes all back to market perception. Well, the momentum has certainly slowed, no question about that. Frank has his doubts about the tax bill passing the way it is. So, he says it adds huge debt to the budget. People lose the small tax break after 3 years, but companies keep the 20% tax break. And the Affordable Health Care Act is to be removed. Yeah, like I said, it's all about how the market is, or what the market is anticipating and what's actually going to unfold. All right, well, the rally continues. Welcome to the exciting world of trading, where we spend a whole lot of time sitting around doing nothing. The market has been really, really strong this morning, right out of the open. We haven't seen one pullback to the hard edge. So what does that mean? Well, that means the further we get into this morning session, the more likely a short-term reversal is to happen. You can see here Trade Manager says we're in trend mode and should be in trend mode for about another hour and a half. That should take us through the end of the lunch hour, but I would not be surprised to see the market try to pull back a little bit before then. So I'm still bullish, still looking for a little bit of the rally to continue. But just be aware the higher we get here, the more likely it is that we're going to see a little bit of a reversal. It's kind of a balance between what price is doing and time itself. The market, you'll see when it's moving, the day before was another example. So, well, actually out of the open, we fell for about a half an hour, came back, touched the trend line, couldn't resume the trend. So then we started moving the other way, and this also about an hour and a half move before we finally got a pullback to the hard edge. So that's probably how today is going to play out as well. If you factor in the overnight, well, some of these moves would be close enough to be considered a little bit of a pullback anyway. Scott is asking, is the Raptor filter set at the same as the bricks in the mean Renko? I actually have mine set at 10. You can set it at 8. I think the default is 12. I changed mine once and I keep forgetting to change it back. But regardless, it won't make that much of a difference whether you go 8, 10, or 12. All right, well, they're starting to struggle a little. We're actually seeing a bar print lower, or trying to print lower. Well, not much I can do right now. We may get a 4-arrow consolidation again here in the Hawk. Um, we've got a basic trend line touch signal here in the Falcon. But we're going to be waiting a little while for a follow-up signal in either the Raptor or the Eagle. That's okay. There's always another opportunity. If you missed, obviously I missed the early one today. That's all right. It happens. Got to remember what the objective is. For those of you following the euro dollar, here is a short signal, a cloud crossover that just developed on the euro dollar. Spent a fair amount of time going sideways, but now that we've actually broken outside of the range through the lows here, it looks as though the euro dollar is going to give it a little bit of a poke to the short side. So there's a number one signal that's just printed. You still have time to get on board with the second push opportunity. But there too, the euro dollar, the North American session, or the the European session is drawing to a close. What I'm thinking is going to happen here is we're going to see a topping formation. And I'll get a short-term move to the short side. I don't think it's something I would go too crazy on, given the extreme bullishness of the market this morning. But that's kind of what I'm stuck waiting for. Wow, what an incredible rally today. Trade forecaster hitting it right on the bean. We've been in a rally mode all morning here, in a trend mode, and a strong trend at that. Wow, look at this. We have moved, well, out of the open. 1, 2, 3 full trading zones. That's that's substantial. Just sitting here waiting. If you have any questions, this is a good time to ask. We don't have a whole lot going on right now. Great question here from Keith. Keith asking about the Profit Finder. Keith asks, Eric, what's your experience with the Profit Finder? Do you ever use that when you're not teaching? Yes, I do. The Profit Finder is a great tool. It's a back testing tool, and I don't use it as diligently as I should. I used to make a point every quarter I would at least take a half an hour and run the Profit Finder just to see whether I was still running the best stop strategy, still running the best profit objectives. And that's the thing about the Profit Finder, is it enables you to answer all those questions. You can try different strategies. You can backtest different strategies, how different stops worked, how different break-even targets worked. Given the current market environment, or at least what the market environment has been for the last few days or last few months, however far back you decide to test it. But yeah, it's a great tool for tweaking your system. If you're not making consistent profits, the Profit Finder is a great way to refine your trading. It'll save you a lot of paper trading, or a lot of paper trading, by enabling you to process a lot of data very quickly. Scott's asking, how many days do you have loaded on your Eagle? It looks like I have 50 days. I don't know why. Sometime in the past I made a change, and never changed it back. Well, I can tell just from the momentum of the bars that we're starting to get a little bit long in the tooth here. And I would be more inclined for a short position now than a long position. I don't know if I'm going to get a trade off here before we close the room down for the morning, but it's definitely what I'll be looking for in the afternoon, is a chance to short. I was just looking at a daily chart here for the NASDAQ, and everybody that was thinking the market was going to start breaking down here below 62.50, well, they just got stuck on the wrong side of the trade, wrong side of the market. What we need to see is we need to see a failure at the top, not a break of the bottom. Break of the bottom is premature. We need to see a failure at the top, evidence that the market cannot or is reluctant to head higher. And this could take quite some time to build. Don't go emptying your 401k just yet. It'll probably take anywhere from 6 to 10 weeks to actually put a proper top into the market. These types of things do not happen overnight, even though it is likely that we will see at least a short-term reversal, and that'll give all the talking heads on TV something to talk about. Nicely done, Mark. Mark says I took that second trend change on the Falcon, this one right here, just got out of that for another 375 with 2 contracts, coupled with the 300 I took on the first one. That's another 2 trade and done day. Should have stayed with the first one and I would have made much more. Oh well, not complaining, that's for sure. I know it's always the challenge, right, to try to decipher when the market may be in a trending mood. And I really haven't discovered a reliable way to determine that. I know some people follow ADX because that's supposed to give you an indication of when the market is in a strong trend, and I suppose it's better than nothing. But even ADX is not infallible because, of course, it's looking back in the history, right? So if you're tracking what happened 14 or 21 or 34 bars ago, well, that's not necessarily what's going on right now. All right, gang, I think we're going to button up shop here for the morning. I'm very open to the idea of a pullback, so that's what I'm going to keep a lookout for. I think we are definitely due. I'm not going to go crazy on the pullback. The first hard edge of the trading band should be a given. The second one we should make, but I might even look at bailing here near the high of the morning, which would put us back around 63.12, 63.13. Like I say, the trend obviously up today, and the closer we get to the news release and the closer we get to lunch hour, the more likely we are to end up drifting sideways, which I think is going to be how the market's probably going to finish the day, in a little bit of a sideways drift. All right, we will talk to you tomorrow. Have yourselves a wonderful day. Bye for now.